Hey everybody, how you doing? It's Scotty Milas, and welcome to another episode of Rapid Fire FNQ. I am your host, as I said, Scotty Milas. I am the founder of ScottMilasFranchiseCoach.com, also the founder of Rapid Fire, along with Wendi Hill. Wendi Hill is also the president and founder of Market Momentum. You can reach out to her on LinkedIn, Wendi, Wendi Hill. As always, we have a bunch of questions that have come in, and I'm going to hand the show over to Wendi.
Okay, great. Thank you. We have 8 questions for this month's session, and are you ready?
I think so.
Okay, number 1. How do you evaluate whether a franchise model is truly recession resilient versus just marketed that way?
Great question, and this is especially in today's market with the the talk of a possible recession. Although we've been hearing this for the last couple of years
Right.
now. I think a lot of this comes down to the validation, talking to existing franchisees within the system, and kind of tuning out maybe a little bit what the brand is telling you, but also paying attention more to what the franchisees are telling you. Hey, when you see a dip in the market, do you see a dip in your business? And ask questions like that. So I think that's the best way to go about this. There are some common sense things to approach this. If it's a need, the chances of it being recession resistant is very strong. If it's a want, again, the likelihood of being at recession resistance, there'd be less likelihood of it being recession resistant. Perfect example is maybe something in the fast casual food concept. While people may not eliminate totally going out for something to eat, during a downturn in the economy, they may limit themselves, thus reducing somebody maybe coming into your place 2 to 3 times a week. Now they're coming down to 1 or 2 times. If it's a service-based business, home improvement, if it's a need, we were just talking about home restoration. If it has to do with a need, water pump broke, or a heater or a boiler, whatever, that truly is recession resistant. But it's all really based on how you go about the validation and talking to franchisees and seeing if there's a dip in their business during peak and downturns in economy, conversations.
Great advice. Great advice. Number 2, how much does the strength of other franchisees in your market actually impact your success?
One of the things that you have to understand, and I think if you caught the last episode or recently saw my post on LinkedIn, franchising, there are territory restrictions. Again, we went into units versus territories. So the caution you have to have is that in your territory that you're looking at, how close is that other franchisee to your territory? Because based on usually franchisor guidelines based on territory, you're not allowed to go into that franchise's territory, and they're not allowed to come into you. Now,
Okay.
if there's nobody in a territory outside of your territory, then you would have to talk with the franchisor and how you could work that. But if somebody does come in, you have to be cautious not to step into their territory, and they're not stepping into your territory. Now, one of the questions that actually coincidentally came up yesterday was, what happens if I know somebody that needs my service, a relative, a very close friend in an
Okay.
existing territory? My guidance is pick up the phone, call the existing franchisee, and see if you can work something out, but
Right.
show professionalism. The advantage also of having other franchisees nearby you is that you can get into, and you probably know more about this than I do when they can really explain it, is co-op marketing, shared
Right.
marketing,
Right.
pool expenses for marketing, pushing traffic into all of the territories in the near area near you. So
Right.
that's the best way to approach it. But I always tell people, having competition or having other franchisees near you outside of your territory is a plus, because it's brand recognition and so forth.
And you're so right, being transparent and calling that other
Yep.
franchisee, it just
Yep.
builds a good relationship.
Yep. Absolutely. And you would want them to do that to you. So
Absolutely.
it's reciprocal.
Okay, here we go. Number 3, how should candidates think about potential staffing challenges when comparing different franchise concepts?
Again, I go back to the validation. That's one of your questions. How does the operational team help me find staff? How does it help me manage my staff? What are the systems set up to hire people? But and I'm going to be transparent. The the finding staff or maintaining staff is that $1 million question.
Right.
It's like anything else. If you're treating your staff well, you're paying them fairly, you're promoting within, you're going to have success keeping staff. If you're employed and you're being treated poorly by your boss or the company you're working for, well, you're going to want to leave. So it's the same thing owning a company. But most franchisors, and this is part of the validation, is to ask about the structure of helping you and how do you maintain staff, hire staff. Some organizations use independent contractors. Well, that's great because now you're not managing your own employees, but how do you find those independent contractors? So those are part of the validation, and that's part of the educational process that I provide to my clients, making sure that you're asking those questions and digging into the labor component if it requires outside labor.
Okay. So number 4, what's one question you wish more candidates asked during current franchisees during validation?
If you had a chance to do it all over again, would you make the same decision?
Right.
I really think that's a key question. And look, uh, it's funny, validation is interesting because you may catch a franchisee on a bad day. You really do.
Right.
I mean, everybody has bad days. So you really have to approach this. Anybody who's worked with me, and if you know about the perfect franchise and our educational model, we have a 6-step validation process allows you to approach things like this. But I really think it's, did you make the right decision? Do
Right.
you feel that you got sold into a decision? So those are the best ways to that's the one question I wish most people would ask more.
That's good advice. Let's do number 5. How do you balance following the system with applying your own business instincts?
Repeat that question one more time for me, Wendy.
How do you balance following the system with applying your own business instincts? So if you have a lot of business experience and then you've got this format this process you need to follow, how do you balance that?
There are a couple of things that you're going to want to understand about franchising that relates to this question. And I do this during my consultation, and I'll use McDonald's as a perfect example. If you look at the list of franchisees, the history of franchisees, successful franchisees in McDonald's, they have had very little or no food experience. What they have is extensive management experience. So you don't have to be an industry expert. And most franchisors are not looking for industry experts. They're looking for people who are willing to learn. But to answer the question, what you want to do is you want to get comfortable for the first 6 to 12 months, getting acclimated with the systems and the best practices that
Right.
has gotten the brand to be successful. Then come up with a great idea. Then present an idea to the brand. Keep in mind that ideas, suggestions, the brand's going to test those for you. If you're an independent owner, it's going to cost you to test those on your own.
Right.
That's the difference between franchising. So the brand's going to help you test that idea, walk through it. I always remember, when I was in the food industry, in franchising, we had this one particular franchisees that always wanted to know why he can't add soup to the menu. And it was
Right.
like, well, why do you want to add soup? And they would go, well, because I have a customer coming in wants to know when we're going to have soup. And I go, well, you're not going to change your whole menu for one customer. So there has
Right.
to be, so acclimate yourself with the systems, get to know the systems. And if you think you have a great idea, present it to the brand. Look, the $5 foot long, the McDonald's
Right.
Happy Meal. I mean, you could go down the list with other brands that have implemented things that are based from franchisee ideas, but they have to be systematically tested and make sure they can work for the entire brand or regionally. They can't do something for just one brand
Okay.
or one location just for you.
That makes sense. Number 6, how much should a candidate weigh their personal interest in the industry against the strength of the model?
Interesting, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to answer this question. One of the things that we discuss in my consultation with my clients, the franchise strategy session, is fits versus passions. So I
Right.
try to position people to really think of business ownership as the right fit versus a passion. Passions can change. You may have a passion for Porsches today, but you may change to BMWs tomorrow. I don't know. I'm just using that as an example.
Right.
So I just think that, and I always use the other example: if you can make $1 million a year selling portable toilets, would you do it? Some people say
Good
yes,
point.
some people say no. So you have to tie your interests into your short and long term goals.
Right.
If
Right.
the issue a lot of people get involved with, and they steer themselves wrong, is that they start thinking about the beginning or the initial steps of business ownership, and they don't stay focused on what their short and long term goals are, especially the long term goals. So your interests have to tie in with your goals, especially your long term goals. And I understand that people, if you're selling a beverage product that had a high content of sugar and you don't
Right.
believe in sugar contents, I get it.
Right.
But you have to sometimes separate what you have a passion for that is really a good fit for you. So that's the
Okay.
best way for me to just answer that question. And
Okay.
hopefully that makes a lot of sense to people.
No, it does. It really does. Number 7. What's a sign a franchise system has strong internal communication and culture?
The process you're following. I won't name the brand, but we have a particular brand in our portfolio that we're talking with, but they don't have the communication level with the clients. It's, hey,
Okay.
if you want to schedule another call, here's my link, schedule it. They're
Mm,
not
okay.
walking people through the conversation and the process.
Okay.
It may work for them, but that may not work for our clients, and that's kind of how we're analyzing it. I like the old saying: "A zebra doesn't change its stripes." If you're
Right.
feeling uncomfortable with the process and what you're hearing with the people that you're talking with within the brand, then maybe this brand isn't for you. Now,
Right.
you don't have to love the people, you don't have to agree all the time, but you have to have a sense of comfortability that you can be successful in this business, and you're confident that that brand has the systems and tools and the people to help implement those system and tools for you as you become a franchisee. And if you don't, then you can make that determination that maybe this franchise, although it may be a great service or product, isn't for you. So
Okay.
that's that cultural fit.
Okay. Good. Good. Here's our last question. Number 8. How do you evaluate whether a franchise opportunity aligns with your long-term lifestyle goals?
Again, it's validation, talking to franchisees. Hey, Mr. or Mrs. Developer, can I talk to somebody who exited corporate America, maybe had a background in what I have, and has been in business for 2 or 3 years? And those are the questions you're going to ask that franchisee.
Right.
That's the validation. The brand can give you so much validation that really pertains to item 19 in the FDD. That's where they cut off. They can't go beyond the item 19, but they can, obviously, if you ask, they can put you in contact potentially with people who have similar backgrounds or background like you, and you can get that question answered. That's why the validation is critical, critical in making a decision on whether this is right for you. Now, if let's just say, well, we don't have anybody that came out of an engineering background, and we don't have anybody that's doing this on a semi-absentee basis. Well, first of all, a great consultant or a good consultant or great referral network shouldn't be presenting you opportunities that don't. If you're asking for semi-absentee, they shouldn't be presenting opportunities that don't have semi-absentee owners. So so again, my point is that if they don't have anybody in the system doing it that way, but they think that you can do it, well, you have to make the decision, the risk reward.
Right.
Do you want to be the first? Otherwise, go for the validation.
Right.
That's the best way to do it.
That's all of our questions. I feel like we talked a lot about communication today and asking questions. I think that's good. It's a good reminder
Yeah,
for people.
it's funny. A lot of people ask me, well, why does the process take 90 to 120 days?
Right.
Well, it's because of the due diligence, the validation. It's, you're not going to you're not making 100 phone calls for validation, but you want to take your time, speak to 6 or 7 franchisees, try to get a grip on people that are maybe in the same position that you were in that are now successful franchisees,
Right.
and see what they're doing and how they're doing it right. to get to where they want, where they are. So yes,
Right.
you're right. Communication is key. It's communication with the franchisee, the franchisor, the brand. And if you're working with a consultant like me, communication with the consultant.
Right. Well, great. That's all I have for this month. I know there'll be more.
Yeah, we'll be announcing the new schedule shortly. Again, this is Scotty Milas. I am the founder of scottmilasfranchisecoach.com and also All Things Considered Franchising, a well-established podcast on franchising entrepreneurship. You can find the podcast on all of your listening podcasts, or just go to allthingsconsideredfranchising.com. Visit my websites, like I said, scottmilasfranchisecoach.com or theperfectfranchise.com. If anyone has any questions regarding business ownership and interested in exploring opportunities through an educational process, please reach out to me. You can reach out to me at Scotty at theperfectfranchise.com. Anybody has any marketing questions, feel free to connect with Wendi Hill over on LinkedIn. And that's it for now. Wendi, have a great rest of the week, and we
You
will
too.
catch up and we'll announce our new schedule shortly.
That
Thanks,
sounds
everybody.
great.
Have a great week.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.